Kentucky did what it was supposed to do following that tough loss at Louisville. Took out a lot of their anger on Eastern Illinois, coming away with a 99 to 53 win. Dion, this was a game that was won on the interior for the Wildcats. If you look at some of the numbers, I got some good stats for you. Eastern Illinois attempted 8 layups this game. Do you want to guess how many layups Kentucky attempted, conversely?
I'm gonna assume less than or way more than eight. Excuse me.
Triple the amount. Kentucky had 24 layup attempts. Eastern Illinois had 8. Eastern Illinois had 17 rebounds. Do you want to guess how many Kentucky had?
A lot more than that.
49. This is like one of those classic buy games where you don't even have to like you could have watched 5 minutes of this game and guessed exactly how it would unfold. It was Kentucky being the way more physical, the way more athletic team. I like that they didn't have to rely on the three ball as much. They only made 8 threes in this game, excuse me, 9 threes in this game. Let their bigs go to work and punish a team that only had 9 players available, didn't really have much of a bench to work with, and did this without Jalen Lowe. Lowe re-injured his shoulder during practice, which gave the chance for some other guys to step up, get some extended minutes with Denzel Aberdeen running the point. You got a little more Jasper Johnson than we have been seeing. Even more Trent Noah minutes as well. But yeah, did you have any big takeaways for Kentucky? Essentially just doing what it was supposed to do, handling business, getting out of there with an easy dub.
Yeah, I mean they shot 36% from three. Which like I'm not saying that's a bad percentage. Kentucky fans like definitely don't get it twisted. That's like a really, really, really good percentage. But like I mean I feel like they're winning in different ways. Mark Pope kind of always talks about like 10 threes is kind of like that baseline for where he wants the team at. I mean they were at nine, which is right around that baseline, but like I said this about Duke against Texas, right? And I obviously like really, really do believe in this. When you win games that I think aren't your best performances handily, um, those are the most impressive teams in the country to me. And I'll be honest, like I'm not trying to take anything away from this Kentucky performance, but like obviously there was another gear they could have got to. And they won by what was it, 36, 46? Not
Not
a
a
math
math podcast,
podcast.
but yeah,
Not a
46.
math podcast. So I mean, you factor both those things in. I think if you're a Kentucky fan, you have to be really, really happy with how the start of this season's gone.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Louisville game was not something you would have wished for. Um, Not to be, rude about that game. We're not going to hash up old stuff. We're going to move forward. But, obviously not exactly what they were looking for in that performance. But overall, I mean, I think that's one performance. That's a small blimp in the road for them moving forward.
For sure. Yeah. And even to that point, it's like it's crazy to look at, some of the advanced numbers here where scored 1.46% points per possession, which is elite, elite, elite. Um, but even with that 3 point number of just 9 makes, when this is a team that, a year ago we were like, are they going to average 12 made threes a game? They go get those shots up. And I mean, Pope just has such an eye for talent in terms of finding shooters and even developing shooters to where it does feel like a little bit of meat was left on the bones, even when I think Andrea Jelovich, he looked really good in this game, only made one of his 4 3-point attempts. Aberdeen only took three-point attempts as well, just made one. Like there are guys who you could have seen maybe stretch that out and make a few more that they're heating up, and then we're really talking about like all of a sudden you're going from a 99 point output to pushing 120, and it's like, oh wow, this is the best offense in the country. So, but to your point, Deanna, that was my big takeaway too, is I love how this Kentucky team has different elements to it and it can win in a variety of ways. And I really can't say enough about Malachi Moreno. I know Mo Diabate was the leading scorer, finished with 20 and 11, like great statistical output from him. But Moreno, to me, every time he comes out there, it's just like he looks more physical than whoever's guarding him. He gets on the glass with more aggression than whoever is trying to box him out. And
Yep.
I know we mentioned him in the preview in terms of how long do you wait before you go to him over Garrison. But I mean, even if he stays in this role, he's still playing. He's still probably going to give you 20 good minutes a night. And maybe by the time February comes, you bump that up to 25, 26, 27, somewhere in that range. But yeah, to have a post presence like him who I mean, does all the dirty work and seems to relish in it and can just finish through contact. It's such a luxury to have, especially when you kind of look at the way this front court is structured, where you can go too deep at the four, too deep at the five. There's not a ton of pressure on him. He can just come in, play his game, have shooters around him, and it really, I would say, enhances or rather like accentuates his skill set.
Yeah, I don't think there's a ton of pressure on Malachi to do anything. I mean, I think the only pressure on all of them is like, on any given night, what is your role going to be?
Hmm.
I think that's what Mark Pope's working on. I think he made a comment post game. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, I believe, but he basically said he was disappointed in himself that he wasn't further along with this group. And I think like part of that is I've always said it. Want to point out, very wrong about it with Kansas, but like I do think there is something to knowing what everybody's role is going to be every single night on a roster. Like I absolutely believe like teams that know like, hey, this is the star player. Hey, this is like Batman and Robin type of thing. So like it's I don't know. I think it's one of those situations where I think Kentucky does have a little bit of issue with that. Like I don't want to say it's identity, but it is a little bit of identity issues with Kentucky at the moment. But they were up by 46. Like I said, with the way everything that's gone on, you have to be so happy with this performance from this team if you're a Kentucky fan.
Yeah, I think to that point, I don't know if you saw the full quote. It was from Tristan Ferris with KSR, who had a little more on that, where he said that on Thursday, Pope brings up a quote unquote story from the Louisville game that doesn't provide details. Da, 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 da. Tonight, he cites Taylor Swift when talking about the story and admits that he wishes this team was further along. That to me is where I'm like, all right, Tristan, can we get the full quote? What T Swift song was he referencing? Is this which era was he pulling from and illustrated his point. But that's a good point. Like, someone like Pope, I think he really has won over the fan base and understands them and knows how they tick to where I don't know, in some ways it's like that earns you a little bit of an ability to be honest when you can self-reflect and say, "Oh yeah, I wish we were a little further along in determining our identity." Um, what's up, Dion?
I'm not calling the timeout on you, right? I tweeted this out. I'm curious what your response is. Tell me this isn't just like the fan base likes me quote version of what Calipari would say. Like you can't tell me this isn't like, hey, I understand how they want to hear it, but isn't this the same as Calipari saying like we haven't scrimmaged enough. We don't exactly know who we are yet. We don't have our like it's the same thing, except for Calipari says it so blunt. And
Yeah.
Pope kind of says it in a nice, like happy-go-lucky way, so people like him more. I'm not saying they're the same coach, right? Like it's very clear they aren't, but it is a very similar quote to what we've gotten from Cal from time to time.
That's actually, I didn't even think about that. That does seem like, however, like when it was Prime Cal, like when we're in the 2010s and he was saying that people bought it. I think those last few years, anytime he would say it, it's like, oh, get a load of this guy, basically. Whereas with Pope, they're still in. Who was it? Who was it? You and G talking about the honeymoon period where now it's the marriage? I think it was all hail the Pope in our Discord who acknowledged that it's you're now in the marriage and the honeymoon's not going to last forever. I still think Kentucky fan. Oh yeah, because all hail the Pope. This was a for Kentucky fans. Don't come after us. Come after the Kentucky fans in our Discord. He was the one who, like, on one of the full episodes this week, had a comment that said, like, "Watch out, Mark Pope. We might turn on you and run you out of town, like we did to Cal." Which to me, it still seems like everybody loves Mark Pope, and I think I know you got down big against Louisville, but you're handling business outside of that. There's not been any moment throughout these other three games where it's been like, oh, Kentucky doesn't look like a top 10 team in the country. And
Yeah.
that's where I still think Pope can get away with some of these quotes that are a little bit like nicer, sweeter sounding versions of what when Cal said the same thing. But the
A
wins just
hundred percent,
don't come through.
100%. I'm not trying to say Pope shouldn't get away with it. I'm just saying like this is like it's like a really nice way to say what Cal would say, man. Like in at the end of the day, right? Like for as different as you want your coach to be from Cal, how different can a coach really be from Cal? Like, what coach isn't going to want the best 5 stars possible? What
Mhm.
coach isn't going to want NBA guys? What coach isn't going to want really high expectations that are tough to live up to, right? Like, the main takeaways from Cal, every coach wants. So, like, you are going to have a lot of that crossover from time to time, I think, if you're a Kentucky fan. Nothing wrong with it. I just would be remiss if I didn't point it out. Big word, by the way, thesaurus guy.
What'd you say?
Big
Big,
word, by the way, big thesaurus guy.
big, the big thesaurus. That might have to be your new nickname. Let me work. I'm gonna workshop that something with thesaurus. We'll work that into the live show. Maybe we have a segment where we open up a thesaurus. No, I'm just
Word of
playing.
the day, maybe.
A word of the day would actually go crazy, but all right. But so even going back to like Pope's goals, how every coach is going to want to accumulate the best talent as possible. As I look at this roster, even where this has kind of been a talking point since Pope took the job, is like, oh, will Kentucky fans be okay if they don't get the NBA guys year in, year out like Cal is having? And this one right now, obviously, like JQ is still a projected top 10 pick. Haven't seen him play yet. Everybody else on the roster, I mean, I think can definitely find a couple guys who will play NBA minutes, but I wouldn't say there's necessarily a guy who you pencil in as like this dude's going to be in the league for 10 years. Maybe Aberdeen gets there, maybe Owe gets there, but yeah, there's not a clear-cut name like that. And yet you're seeing,
Moreno and Jasper.
yeah, maybe. I mean, Moreno to me feels more, I could see him sticking in the league one day just as like an energy
I
garbage
think like
big.
when I go down the roster, I mean, I think Aberdeen and Owe have a shot. I think if Owe was going to get it, it probably would have been last year, to be
Yeah.
completely honest with you. Diabate probably gets a chance. Like I think Diabate gets like a two-way deal just because of like the size and athleticism and
Right.
defensive potential. JQ's a lock. Moreno feels like the guy that gets there because of his size, right? Like if you're 7 foot, you're borderline first round pick, just like based off like the box score, essentially, right?
And 250 too. Like the dude is bulky. But even to
Yeah.
that point, as you're looking at like, there might not be the clear-cut NBA guys, but across the board, really outside of Jasper, you have guys who are already like I would say college ready frames, in some cases NBA ready frames. And I do think this team plays more physically than it did a season ago. And just looking at a couple numbers, so right now, I want to pitch the question to you, like, do these numbers matter? Are they real based on the competition Kentucky has
Okay.
played outside of Louisville? So they are shooting 84% at the rim right now, which is in the 99th percentile nationally. And then defensively, they are only allowing teams to shoot fewer than 23% of their shots at the rim, which is in the 89th percentile nationally. So they're really taking away opportunities for teams to get easy looks, and then they're really maximizing it in a way they didn't last year on the other end, like with shots at the rim. Do those numbers matter to you right now when you're seeing them play the likes of Valpo and Eastern Illinois? Do you think that they mean anything? Or do you think that this is something that where it's like, okay, this is impressive. I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt. But when you hear those numbers, does that feel actually meaningful and like actually sustainable to you?
I mean, I think you take everything with a grain of salt outside of that Louisville game. But I think what you could take from all of it is that this team has different ways to compete, different ways to be involved in games, different ways to win games. Because I think if you even look at that Louisville game, um, with everything that went on, that easily could have been a blowout, and like they stuck around, gave themselves a puncher's chance. I don't think it was the greatest performance in the world, but like I don't think it's one that you are like leaving the game super concerned that that was your team's performance either.
Right.
I think it's somewhere in the middle. So you know, give them a little respect for that as well. But I think overall, you're looking at this team and you're just excited about the potential. The ceiling of them is clearly very high. And there's like no doubt about that. So I think you take it with a grain of salt, but you're like excited about it at the same time.
Yeah, it's like a grain of Himalayan salt that's like, ooh, this is fun and exotic, and maybe this will continue. I don't think they're going to shoot 84% at the rim all year, obviously. It's like you're going to play SEC teams with a lot of size and athletes they can throw at you. But I really can't harp on enough that I think what you do take away is the kind of same thing you're saying is this team is more versatile, it's more multifaceted than I would say I even expected. I think the front court is much further along. I think guys like Yelovich are going to continue to get more comfortable and get better. And even someone like Cam Williams, I know I get like my algo will show me a ton of draft Twitter folks like just tweeting out their big boards, and half the
Oh,
time I'm
he'll play in the NBA. I'm so sorry to interrupt you,
you
but when
really
we
think Cam?
discuss NBA guys, Cam Williams will play in the NBA.
So I was watching him in this game thinking like, okay, maybe this is where the draft Twitter hype is coming from just because of the size and the shot. And even like he flies
Yeah.
around there a little bit sometimes on the boards as well. But it's like his role has just been so up and down. And yet I still think it's such a luxury to have him as your eighth, ninth guy. And but he might be to in terms of the NBA, maybe he just takes a year to get acclimated to Kentucky and then he really explodes next year or something. But yeah, I just think that like having the high sometimes I think depth is overrated, but in that same breath, I think having someone like him like deep on your bench that you can just put into a game like this and trust he's going to knock down his open threes and use his size well is a major advantage.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Cam, like, it, in terms of the NBA sense of it, it's the shot and the size, and like dudes like that just get opportunities, man. Like if Otega was 3, 4 inches taller, we're talking about like top five pick probably.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I think Yelovich has a shot in the league too, 6'11", 3-point shooter. Like I
Mhm.
think all these guys, there's a lot of dudes on this team that have a shot, but like when we talk about guaranteed ones, um, you mentioned JQ, of course. That's the obvious choice. You know, I brought up Moreno, Jasper. Who was the other one? Oh, Diabate.
Yeah.
Cam Williams is Diabate with a burner. So, like, if I think Diabate gets a shot, I believe Cam Williams definitely gets a shot.
I mean, I don't know if Cam Williams can guard like Diabate. Diabate is still even
I don't know.
I mean, Pope's comments after the game last night were like, "Oh, we need Diabate and Ortega to even be more disruptive." He said he wants both of them vying for Defensive Player of the Year type awards, but I don't know. Maybe I need to dive a little more into Cam Williams' tape to see if he can reach that same potential defensively. But
I mean,
regardless,
I'm not saying he's there yet
yeah,
by any means, right? Like, I'm not gonna say that he's like an elite defender at the moment, but like, I mean, you're talking about what a guy that's like 6'8" with like a 7'1", 7'2" wingspan or something like that. Something crazy. I can't remember what the exact numbers were from that Kentucky combine, but just something absolutely nuts. Like, that's a guy that it with the right coaching around him and at least puts the effort in on that end. You never know. But if he puts the effort in on that end, yeah, I think he could be one of the best defenders in the world.
yeah. Well, Kentucky, deep, talented, gratitude, all of that encapsulated in this nice little 44-point victory. 47? What did we determine, Dion? 46.
46.
46-point victory. Thank you for tuning into this one.